Sometimes in life, we have to take a moment, step off the treadmill, and decide if where we are is the right place for us. What may have worked for us 5 years ago or 2 years ago may not necessarily work for us where we are in our current situation. In today's video, I'll be talking you through the reasons as to why I left my job as a salaried GP, and I'll be discussing some of the things I'll be doing next. Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new, then a massive welcome to you. My name is Dr. Baptiste and I work as a portfolio GP. If you are new and you haven't subscribed, then why not consider subscribing, because I have loads of useful content to support you on your medical career journey. And as always, if you enjoyed the video and gained value from it, then be sure to give it a thumbs up. So I handed in my notice. I've left my job now as a salaried GP. Yes, I work as a portfolio GP, but I specifically worked as a salaried GP. So there are many combinations as to how you can work as a portfolio GP, and being a salaried is just one of them. And I've spoken about my career in previous videos. For those of you who have watched those videos and follow me, you'll know all about my career. However, for those of you who don't know much about my career, then I suggest you check one of the videos out. So I'm going to talk you through some of the reasons as to why I left my job and some of the things that I'm going to be doing next going forward in my career. So number one is really a personal choice. There were some personal circumstances that meant I had to reevaluate where I was and what was going to work for me going forward. So for me, the biggest thing was personal circumstances. What worked for me when I started the job in 2019, as soon as I qualified as a GP, does not work for me now. The salary job, working 2.5 days a week, that worked for me at the time, and at the moment it just doesn't work for me. And like I said at the start of the video, sometimes you just have to reevaluate where you are, what works for you, and if something isn't working for you, then you just have to think about changing it and creating a plan that hopefully will work for you. So I'm now going to talk about the pros and cons to working as a salary GP versus locuming, for instance. So I have spoken a bit about locuming in a previous video, which you can check out. But in terms of being a salaried, I really enjoyed being a salaried because you do have all the benefits of being employed by the practice. So I have spoken about this in a previous video, but I'll briefly go over that. As an employee, you will have annual leave, sick leave, maternity, paternity leave and pay. You'll be able to contribute to your pensions, of course, if you're working in the NHS. So there were a lot of benefits and security, job security, that I enjoyed. As a locum, I wasn't too keen on finding different jobs and having that lack of security that I had as a salary GP. I liked being in one place, and even when I did locum, I locumed regularly at one practice for a short time. So for me, I didn't really like moving around, having to find different jobs every so often, and that was one of the things that kind of put me off locuming. And as a salaried GP, you're part of a team. I mean, as a locum, you can be part of a team, but as a salaried GP, you tend to be more involved in the practice. You tend to take part in audits, you attend practice meetings, clinical meetings, and so you can really get involved and immersed in the practice. And that was one of the things that I really enjoyed, and one of the reasons why I chose to be a salaried GP. I also really enjoyed seeing the practice grow and seeing my contributions to the practice and to the community. I do talk much more about my reasons as to why I chose general practice in an earlier video, so if you are interested in some of the reasons, my earlier reasons, then go ahead and check that video out as well. So let's talk briefly about the cons of working as a salaried versus a locum. So I think the biggest thing for me is the flexibility. Again, where I was a few years ago is different to where I am at the moment now. I need a bit more flexibility in terms of my schedule. Working 2.5 days out of the week did work for me, but at the moment I need even more flexibility in terms of my career and my personal circumstances. Of course, when you're employed, you have to request annual leave. You may not be able to take annual leave when you like. especially working in a smaller practice, it might be a bit more difficult. Of course, you have responsibilities like being the doctor on call, administrative duties, admin, bloods, imaging, prescriptions, and so on and so forth. And sometimes the admin can be quite a lot depending on where you work. Some days of course fluctuate, but of course being a salaried means you have to do extra administrative duties. The other thing I would say is, as a salaried or being employed, your employer can make changes within reason to what they would like you to do in terms of your job role or job description. Just bear in mind that when you start somewhere, as time progresses and maybe as the needs of the community change, you may be asked to do different things and your job might change slightly. So like I said, I enjoyed being immersed in the practice. I enjoyed attending meetings and things like that. But some people, it's just not for them. They don't particularly want to do that. They don't want to attend meetings. And so as a locum, you kind of go and come freely. And of course, let's talk about the pay. As a locum, you'll get paid more than a salaried GP. Of course, you don't have that security that being employed brings with it. But some people prefer that. If you want to know much more about how you can work as a locum and how much you could potentially earn, then check out one of my earlier videos. Now I'm going to focus on some of the pros and cons to working in a small practice or working in general practice, maybe in comparison to the hospital, which is a much larger setting overall. So when you're in a practice, and more specifically a small practice, it can be great to work in a close-knit team and really get to know people. However, you may of course have less staff. In the practice I was working at, there was one practice nurse and 2 GPs at one given time. Now, this may not be such an issue in the beginning. This may be perfect. It may be completely manageable. If one doctor is away, the other doctor can manage for a short period of time. The practice may hire a locum to help the other salaried GP who remains there. However, things can happen. So for instance, a nearby practice could close down and then your practice may have to take on extra patients. So if you take on extra patients and the staffing isn't increased, then you may find that the workload may increase for those GPs and for the staff that are working there. So in terms of annual leave and getting time off, I actually managed to get most of my time off except for a few dates. However, it can be difficult in general to get the leave that you'd like working anywhere. But of course, if you work in a smaller practice, then you may obviously have to negotiate and work between staff members as to who can take leave when. Now, of course, there is a risk of COVID. COVID wasn't here when I started my job in 2019. And of course, COVID adds another dimension to things. So that has also influenced my decision. So now I'm going to talk you through what I'm going to be doing next. Well, like I've said to you in the video and in previous videos, I do enjoy working as a salaried GP. However, my current circumstances make it a little bit difficult for me to be able to do that. And also with my other ventures as well, working as a salaried and the lack of flexibility that comes with that just doesn't work for me at the moment. So I'm going to locum. I'm going to locum for a short while with a view to potentially becoming a salaried GP again. I don't know when that's going to be. That could be in a few months, that could be in a year. I'm not sure. But at the moment, I know that I need to locum. So that's number one. Now, where will I be locuming? Okay, so before I answer that question, what I should say here is that I'm going to work remotely. So I will not be physically in a GP practice. And I feel like working remotely, given everything that I've said above, works for me at this current point in time. So I'm going to work remotely, number two. And I'm going to locum. I'm going to locum within the NHS. I have thought about working for a private company remotely. However, I want to stay within the NHS. And one of the reasons I want to stay within the NHS is so that I can contribute to my pension. Now, before I used to think, why am I contributing to my pension? Surely I can just take that money now and just save it, and that works for me. I never opted out of the pension, but I've been speaking to a financial advisor, which I will talk a little bit about later on in the video, and it just makes sense now, given everything that they've told me, to stay within the pension and to continue to pay and to contribute to your pension. So that's one of the reasons as to why I want to stay within the NHS. So that's what I'm going to be doing in the short term. I will do another video at some point when I've decided that I might want to go back and become a salaried GP. I will definitely keep you guys up to date. So I'm just going to briefly talk about what working remotely means. So working remotely means that, like I said, I won't be physically in a GP surgery. I'll be working from home, and I will be seeing patients via telephone and video consultations. If a patient does need to be seen face to face for an examination or otherwise, then there is a facility for me to be able to direct that patient to the practice so that they can get an appointment. So in terms of locuming, like I said earlier, I do like to locum at one particular place. However, when you locum, and like with my portfolio career, you should not really limit yourself. And so I may locum somewhere else, but for me, it's really about time. And so if I can locum regularly at one place and get to know people there, then that's what I'm going to do, because that works for me and my personality. However, many people locum at more than one place. So I have also applied for a few other roles, non-clinical roles. If I get the roles, I will tell you what they are. So I'll keep you posted about that. I will also continue to teach and examine medical students. So I'll teach the medical students who are coming in this academic year at my previous practice. I don't know if I will be doing that long term. It really depends on what the practice wants, but I had already signed up to teach them. So I'll be continuing to teach medical students in the next academic year. So now I'm going to briefly touch on what I said earlier about the financial advisor. If you haven't seen the video where Alexander and Co talked to us about money, then I implore you to check that video out. In that video, the accountant John says to us, you should have an accountant. So I have an accountant. And if you have any spare cash available, I wouldn't call it spare cash, but if you have the capabilities to hire a financial advisor, then they recommend that you do so. So I haven't hired one yet officially, but I have been speaking to a financial advisor as part of a big company actually, and I feel that this is something that will be beneficial to me and my future career going forward. So I will be doing some research. I will be looking into investing and building a portfolio, of course guided by the financial advisor. Like I said, it's not official yet, but it probably will be official in the near future. I feel that although I have a degree of financial literacy, it can be improved upon. There are still a lot of things that I don't know, and even when I spoke to the financial advisor, she was asking me questions and saying, do you understand this? And I was just like, I don't. So even though I have an accountant and I do bookkeeping, and I've been, you know, doing bookkeeping and working with the accountant for many years, there's still so much I don't know. So for me, this is also an opportunity for me to understand more about money and finances, and also things like financial protection, which I hadn't really thought about too much. You know, as evidenced by my portfolio career, I believe that you shouldn't have all your eggs in one basket, and building a portfolio and looking into investing is just another avenue and just another way for me to not have all my eggs in one basket and to try something new. I feel like, and I've said it many times, as medics, we don't talk about money. We don't really understand money and how money works and how finances work. And for me, I really want to grab this opportunity to learn more about that. So I want to try something new, and I want to become more financially literate. So that's all I'm going to say about my career at the moment. I will be sure to keep you posted about all the things I've said above. If you have any comments about any of that, then be sure to drop me a message in the comment section below, and I will be sure to get back to you. If you enjoyed the video, then as always, give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, then why not hit that subscribe button? I've got loads of useful content to support you on your medical career journey. So stay tuned, and I'll see you in the next video.